Hello, I hope we finally got back to the video studio here at my home in my sunroom. And I wanted to tell everybody, I wanted to say hello to everybody that's following me on my Peggy Mercer YouTube channel. And the title of my channel is Writing for Love and Maybe Money. And I do everything you can think of on how to become a best-selling author, how to become an author, and so on and so forth. I've deviated just a hair because I am indeed a citizen journalist, having started my work career so many years ago, working for the newspaper office and attending the journalism school at the University of Georgia, one of the thrills of my lifetime. So I am a great hand at reporting, and I became just totally fascinated with this Nancy Guthrie case out of Tucson, Arizona. And because the case has cooled off a little bit, and because everybody's saying, oh, don't let this go cold, don't let this go cold, that's my feeling exactly. We aren't going to let this case go cold. And just like I said the other day, and I really am thankful for this case, while a terrible, heartbreaking tragedy for this family, this case has done so much to draw attention to the very subject of missing people in America and all over the world. And I think that's the good. I know that the young Today's star, Savannah Guthrie, and we're talking about her mother here, and I know that she said in one of her interviews that her faith and her joy and her work there on the Today Show was going to be so wonderful, and it was going to be her protest of the sorrow of this tragedy, and what a wonderful young lady she is. And I just watch her all the time. I was a big fan of hers before this ever happened. The great tragedy is that her mother, Nancy Guthrie, was somehow, some way, taken against her will out of her home there in the Catalina foothills on February the 1st. And it has been, 3 months now? It's been quite some time since this happened. The sheriff's department there has said that they think they know the person who took her motive. They don't know the person that took her yet, or they're saying they don't. They're saying they don't have a suspect in this terrible tragedy that probably cost the lovely Miss Nancy her life, and they're still saying they don't have a clue as who did this. But however, I will tell you that I think that they do, and I think they're just holding it very close to their vest, and I think they're going to let us know very quickly and make an arrest, because we've all been praying that there would be an arrest. Now, I just want to mention a couple of things, and this at the urging of my friends that are following me closely on the YouTube channel here. And I want to mention a couple of things about this case, and I'm sure following this case, there's going to be books written about it, and probably case studies going into law enforcement training programs for incoming law enforcement officers, and this case is going to be studied very intensely, very extensively by these young law enforcement officers, because it seems like nothing has been easy on this case. They still don't have a suspect. They still don't know where Nancy went. They still don't know what happened. My first guess on this, and this is just my opinion, being an author, and I am a best-selling author. There's one of my books right there. There Come a Soldier, written about paratroopers, World War II. My award-winning book up here behind me, Peach, with a well-run drive that won me Georgia Author of the Year in 2011. So during all this writing, I've been a person who has back and forth to New York and Detroit, all over the country with the large writers groups, and sharing lunch with some really big stars, of which it's been my honor and privilege to be in those groups. And I hope I've done a pretty good job myself. Probably tried and still doing a lot of writing. You can see my books on Amazon if you would like to go to my Author Central page. If I could say something here about this case about Nancy Guthrie, because even like everybody else, we're all running out of things to say. The only thing I got done today, I washed my wig and did a few things in the roses, and I've got a carpenter working on a project here, so I'm busy, but I've got this Nancy Guthrie case on my mind. And just like I tell my young writers that are learning to write stories for children or novels, or working with some really fabulous writers. And I worked with a girl that is a business star on the Fox Business channel, and that was a privilege. And she did have a bestseller, so I'm a very good editor if you need my opinion on editing a book. And I wanted to give my opinion with a nod back to my reporting days. I love to report the news, and we're seeing that this case on Nancy Guthrie has gotten a little chilly. It's gone cold, is what they're saying. And those of us who are just all in with following this case and trying to pray and hope that they have some kind of resolution, we're all in right on. I bought my little granddaughter a bracelet the other day with a charm on it that says never give up. And I'm a person that says in your writing and your work, your investigative work that you're doing, if you're a journalist on this case and other cases, never give up, never start digging. Never stop digging. Don't let these cases go cold. We're talking about somebody's mother here, lovely Nancy Guthrie, who is 84 years old. And as you all know who follow me, I did a video a week ago, I believe it was, that said Miss Nancy's walking the moon. And one thing we do say in the South, growing up in the country on farms, we say we're going to go walk the goat pen, we're going to go walk the fence line, we're going to go walk the yard, we're going to go walk around the barn, we're going to go walk the... And so I gave a video a week ago on Miss Nancy, and I said what an absolutely lovely Christian woman she was. God bless her journey. And I said that she might have laid there night after night and looked at that beautiful moon in the Catalina foothills that she loved so much. And she might have said, I'm just going to go follow that moon. And she may have taught her family and that were there close by into helping her go out in the middle of the night like it's said. And she may have said to them, I'm tired of my pain that I'm having with my back, and this is just not for me, and I think I'll go walk the moon. And so that is the second thing that I said. And one of my favorites, gentleman who follows me on here, said that the story made him cry. I appreciate your comments so very much. Now, what I want to say right now about the case having gone cold, one of the first things that I said, and this is so frustrating to me, I said if she had been taken by some kidnappers. And I don't think anybody went in there to kidnap her. I think this is a family issue. Someone very close to her in some kind of maybe family squabble. I don't know. How do I know? I'm not a mind reader. I'm not a palm reader. I don't know these things. But I do know plots. And I do know that things are not always like they seem. And I do know that nothing surprises me in the world of writing. There's no plot I've ever read that surprises me. I do read some writers that their writing is startling in its beauty, startling in the twists that it incorporates into the plots. And I think there was some kind of twist to this plot. And the story about Miss Lovely Nancy Guthrie. I think that what happened, nobody's got it figured out yet. All that the sheriff and the law enforcement staff, and God bless every one of them, I know how hard they're working, but all they've got to go by is what he said, and the he being her son-in-law that they call Tomosa or Tommy or whatever they call him. It's the strange Italian name. He said that he dropped her off at 9 something, and she went inside her house, and the electronic I think door, digital doorbell, or the raising of the garage door going into the garage did show that the garage was open at a certain time and then closed at a certain time. So his story is backed up. But I just, when he said he dropped her off, I'm like Nancy Grace. I would love to say I'm like Nancy Grace. She's from Georgia, and I absolutely have watched her for years and years and years, ever since she got started. I love that girl. Isn't she beautiful? And she's always just so right on, and she's always digging, and she's always having the best of them on her show. She can have me on their neck. I love her. And she said one time on one of her shows that she can look at somebody and tell by the way they walk if they're guilty or not. And I tell you one thing, she comes up with some really good quips and quotes and comebacks there, and I love her. And I say, and I could tell you by the way that there's in the tradition of Miss Beautiful Nancy Grace, I can tell you that I knew the minute this guy, Tommy, said that he dropped Miss Nancy off, I knew he was lying, because what kind of son-in-law would do that to an 84-year-old woman with a pacemaker who can't walk more than about 50 feet without she needs assistance? What kind of son-in-law is that? My grown sons will wait on me and help me get in and out, and John Richards will wait on me and carry my heavy purse for me. So a man is that if he's half a man with any manners at all, he's not going to drop his 84-year-old mother-in-law out and let her find her way in the house. Another thing that really miffed me is then they didn't call her an hour later and say, Mom, is everything all right over there? No phone call whatsoever. And the next morning, she's supposed to join a friend of hers, or friends, and I haven't heard the details on that, but she's going to watch her church program live streamed on television at this woman's house. And the woman said that lovely Miss Nancy Guthrie didn't show up, so she called the Nancy Guthrie's son-in-law and daughter there, Annie, and told them, your mother hasn't shown up and we're very worried. And so maybe an hour later they rush over to Miss Nancy Guthrie's house. All that don't add up to me. That just don't add up to me. When my mother was sick, I sold some programs that I ran for the state of Georgia as a private contractor, and came home and I started a boom business tutoring program in my house in the country so that I could be next door to my mother during her sickness and check on her. I could look out my door and see if her light was on or off and know what time she went to bed. And in a few hours, I might go up there in the middle of the night and check on my precious mother. So that story right there just didn't ring true to me. Now, the reason that I say this is I tell my writers, you start your story where the story starts. You don't start before it starts, and you don't tell me a lot of stuff and start when it's over. You start where it starts. So, one thing we're wondering is, how is it that law enforcement, such as the sheriff and his sidekicks there, how is it that they believed or seemed to believe every word that the son-in-law said? We know that there were many suspicions about them. They went through their house, it seems, with a fine-tooth comb. And then they confiscated their car and kept their car 40 days. And so we know by all that they were looking for something, and they probably found a lot of it, and who knows. And then there are other things that we worried about, and other things that we thought about. How do you even begin to not ask a group like the Cajun Navy to come in and do a search? Now, we did see a helicopter. We do know that they had a little digital technology going where they were out looking around in the desert for the sound of a pacemaker. I learned something about pacemakers I never knew before. I learned that pacemakers have a little, that they last for years. This thing pings and works, and you can pick up the sound of the pacemaker. And so we did see a search going on. There were searches. I don't understand why there was not a major search. And one of the first things I said before I did my Walk the Moon story, which to me just fills my heart with joy thinking that that might have happened, because you know what? It's your life. Go jump out of an airplane if you want to. At 84 years old, it's definitely your choice what happens to you in the next hour, in the next week, or the next month. It's your choice. I say do your thing and do whatever you want to do. However, this is another angle altogether. When all this first happened, and they showed this guy finally on this video at the front porch, and everybody's just going very ballistic about the way he's dressed. He's actually to be a criminal, it looks like. Kind of clumsy and out of his element there, because he doesn't know a whole lot about what he's doing. That's what comes across, and everybody agreed on that. He also was wearing like a little toy holster with a gun positioned in the center of his stomach. Him or her, I still say it was a woman. I don't know about how law enforcement can tell whether it was a man or not. They didn't ever say they had any of his DNA, but they started saying it was a he. But when the person at the porch leaned over, it looked like he had a very clear bust line through there, and you could actually see the curvature of that, and it could have been that he was just a kind of a real big, hefty guy, and we've seen guys like that, but there were a lot of odd moments there, especially with the gun that he carried in the front. First thing I did when I saw that was jumped on the internet and started doing research on who carries guns like that. And I came up with something very interesting that said, and I'm the first person that said this, we didn't even hear it from law enforcement people, it's called a Mexican carry. When you carry that gun position in the center of your stomach in that little holster like that, that's called a Mexican carry. Well, the first thing I had thought about, and so this really jived with my mind, I first said, if they took her out of there, and she was alive, hopefully, but if they took her out of there with the intention of keeping her alive because they were true kidnappers and going to have to ask for a ransom, then of course that's what they wanted to do. And the first thing I said was they carried her to Mexico. And nobody said that for weeks, and it finally came out that they had gotten a ransom note from a guy down in Mexico that said he saw Miss Lovely Nancy Guthrie with the kidnappers in Mexico, and she was okay and some other stuff like that, and that led me to believe that. As the case unfolded, the sheriff got hold of some DNA and sent it to a supposedly really great lab in Florida that at the same time the FBI wanted to get their hands on the DNA and send it to Quantico, Virginia, right? But the sheriff wouldn't let them, and so he did essentially block that, and he said he was only going to use this Florida lab. Well, that's fine. That may be good friends of his, or they may be a great lab. I'm sure they are if they're in Ron DeSantis' state. All things are so great in Florida. I've got a shirt that says Make America Florida. And I thought that was funny that he saw that stuff down there, but that's okay too. So now it seems Cash Patel and his crew have finally gotten their hands on the DNA, and the update on that is that they've sent the DNA to Quantico, Virginia, which is considered one, if not the, I'll tell you, greatest DNA labs in the world, if not the nation. So that's where we are. Everybody's out of ideas. And so we start where the story starts. When this kind of thing happens, we go back, and we back up to the beginning. And we realize how fast it was that this sheriff who knows, for some reason, he was immediately defending this family, and that's okay. Seems like a bunch of nice people. I don't know anything about them, but I will tell you that things are not always as they seem. There's more to a story than meets the eye. In this case, I think it's all a lot simpler when you really go for the jugular and start looking at who said what. Are we going to take his word for it? What really happened? Was somebody in there waiting on her to come in there? Did he leave? Did she stay? Was somebody with her? Did they give her a shot? Did they give her an injection? Did they take her out of there in a body bag with blood all over the front porch? Was that the law enforcement agency? And the detectives, they are all going to figure this out. That is the one thing you can take and deposit in the bank. They are going to figure this thing out, and we are going to know exactly what happened. And I believe, like some others have said, I have faith, and I believe with all my heart and soul that something real good is going to come out of this. Although it is a terrible tragedy, it is going to be a grief-stricken moment to add to all the other grief-stricken moments when they do find out what happened. If they took her out in a body bag and they took her to Mexico, it's very doubtful to me that they'll ever find what's left of the story, but I pray that they do, where they can bring her to her final resting place. What we see here is that this was probably, in my opinion, as an author who's dealt with a lot of plots and a lot of twists to the plots, I think it goes back to the very first of it. And we have to back up, and law enforcement's going to have to back up and say, maybe we got this wrong. Maybe this was not a kidnapping for ransom. the ransom's not been paid. Now this guy down in Mexico, he's wanting a Bitcoin, whatever that is, and he's going to stick that in a gum machine, get some bubble gum out. We don't know what's going on with this character. But if it was me, I'd pay it. And I would see if he knows where she's at, or where the people who are responsible for this terrible, inhumane, tragic event occurred. And she deserves for us not to give up. If you're a citizen journalist, you make noise. Don't let them call your noise noise. Say your piece. Have your opinion. I think without just casting a slander at anybody, feel sorry for the sheriff. I think he's catching it from all sides, and probably not a perfect man, had a few little skeletons in his closet. Hey, we all have skeletons in our closet. Nobody's perfect. But the same Lord God that made us made the criminals also. And so we got to pray that one of them, especially I think the one that's fooling around talking about the Bitcoin, come on, man. Y'all are all fixing to be busted. You might as well come on and confess and try to get some help going for this family. And I know in your heart that you're going to do that very thing, and I hope you do it right now if you see my video. I want to thank everybody. Please make a comment on my channel. This is a writing channel, and I am preparing, even as I speak, with a stack of the most wonderful books you have ever read in your entire life. I'm going to show those to you on Sunday, or before. I may show them to you before. But I'm going to talk to you people about writing poetry. Be very careful who teaches you. Be very careful who you listen to. I know people that claim to be world-class poets, and they couldn't tell you what a sonnet was if it bit them on the right elbow. So be careful who teaches you. Make sure they know their stuff. And get in here and subscribe to my channel, Peggy Mercer YouTube, Writing for Love and Maybe Money, and all kinds of other subjects. And I will see you guys later. Praying these people will crack this case for us, and we can move on to back to the writing. I'm also going to be showing people, I'm also doing a video about my lovely home and how I built my home and how I have got the roses going after Hurricane Helene and how they're out there doing, minus a few cutworms. See what I tell you, life is not easy and nothing comes easy, but never give up. Thank you.